Her fingers slipped. Maya screamed as her body dropped 6 inches, the wheelchair dragging her toward the black Atlantic below. Ice coated the broken dock. Ice coated her hands. She couldn't hold on. She couldn't feel anything below her waist. She never could. But now the cold was stealing everything else, too. 3 miles away, Lieutenant Marcus Cole shoved away the Belgian Malinois puppy blocking his path. The dog lunged back, sank his teeth into Marcus's sleeve, and pulled with desperate strength. Marcus tried to shake free. The dog held tighter, crying, begging. That animal knew something the soldier didn't. Someone was dying. Before we begin, tell us where you're watching from. And if this story touches your heart, please subscribe and follow until the very end. Now let's continue. The cold had stopped being painful 20 minutes ago. Maya Hartwell understood what that meant. She had read enough survival articles during her lonely nights at the lighthouse to know that when the cold stopped hurting, death was negotiating its terms. Her arms trembled violently as she gripped the broken plank above her head. The wheelchair dangled beneath her, still strapped to her useless legs, pulling her down toward the churning water 15 feet below. The dock had given way without warning. One moment she had been watching the storm roll in from the Atlantic. The next moment the world had collapsed. "Help!" Her voice cracked against the wind. "Someone help me!" But there was no one. There hadn't been anyone for 2 years. That was the point of moving to Beacon Point, Maine, the isolation, the independence, the freedom from pitying eyes and whispered condolences. She had wanted to prove she could survive alone. Now she was going to die alone. Her right hand slipped. She screamed a raw animal sound that the storm swallowed whole. Her left arm took all her weight, and she felt the shoulder joint grinding, threatening to dislocate. The Atlantic roared beneath her, hungry and patient. "God," she whispered, her lips blue and barely moving. "Please, I'm not ready." The dog found him first. Lieutenant Marcus Cole was 3 miles inland, running his morning patrol through the frozen woods that bordered the naval station. He ran every morning at 0500, before the world woke up, before he had to pretend he was whole. The running kept the nightmares at bay. The exhaustion earned him a few hours of dreamless sleep. He was pushing through a particularly brutal incline when the Belgian Malinois exploded from the underbrush. Marcus stopped cold. His hand went automatically to his hip, where his sidearm would have been in a combat zone. But this wasn't Afghanistan. This was Maine. And the creature charging toward him wasn't a threat. It was a puppy. The dog slammed into his legs with enough force to stagger him. It was young, maybe 8 months old, with the distinctive black mask and fawn coloring of a working Malinois. But this dog wasn't working. It was panicking. "Easy," Marcus said, his voice rough from disuse. "Easy, boy." The puppy didn't settle. It grabbed the sleeve of his running jacket in its teeth and pulled backward with surprising strength. "Hey," Marcus tried to shake free. "Let go!" The dog released him, ran 10 feet toward the coast, then stopped and looked back. It barked once, sharp and commanding, then ran back and grabbed his sleeve again. Marcus had worked with military K-9 units for 12 years. He had seen dogs track insurgents through mountain caves, detect IEDs buried under 3 feet of sand, and take bullets meant for their handlers. He knew what a working dog looked like when it had found something. This dog had found something. "Show me," Marcus said. The puppy released his sleeve and bolted toward the coast. Marcus followed his legs, eating up the frozen ground with the efficiency of a decade of special operations training. The terrain grew treacherous, ice-slicked rocks, hidden roots, patches of black ice that could snap an ankle without warning. The dog never slowed down. It ran with single-minded determination, glancing back every few seconds to make sure the human was still following. They broke through the tree line, and Marcus saw the lighthouse first. It stood on a rocky promontory, tall, and weathered its lamp dark against the gray morning sky. Then he saw the dock, or what was left of it. Half the structure had collapsed into the water. Broken planks floated on the churning surface like scattered bones. And at the edge of the remaining section, hanging by her arms over the void, was a woman. Marcus didn't think. He reacted. "Hold on!" he roared, his voice cutting through the wind like a blade. "I'm coming!" Maya heard him. She turned her head, her neck screaming in protest, and saw a figure sprinting across the rocks toward her. For one delirious moment, she thought she was hallucinating. The cold did that. It made you see things that weren't there. But then the figure was on the dock, and she felt the wood shudder under new weight, and she knew he was real. "Don't move." The man's voice was commanding, military. "The structure is unstable. I need you to stay absolutely still." "I can't," Maya's voice broke. "I can't hold on much longer." "You can." He was closer now, close enough that she could see his face, hard angles, dark eyes, a jaw that looked like it had been carved from granite. "You're going to hold on because I'm going to get you out. What's your name?" "Maya." "Maya, I'm Marcus. I need you to look at me. Don't look down. Look at me." She forced her eyes to meet his. He was lying flat on the remaining dock, distributing his weight across the unstable planks, reaching toward her with both arms. "The wheelchair," Maya gasped. "It's pulling me down." Marcus assessed the situation in a heartbeat. The chair was strapped to her legs with some kind of harness, a safety measure that had become a death sentence. The combined weight was too much for her exhausted arms to support. "I'm going to grab your wrists," Marcus said. "When I do, I need you to let go of the plank." "I'll fall." "No, you won't. I've got you." "You can't. The chair weighs 40 pounds. I weigh—" "Maya." His voice dropped, becoming something almost gentle. "I've carried wounded men through enemy fire. I've pulled my brothers out of burning vehicles. I am not going to drop you. Let go." She looked into his eyes and saw something she hadn't seen in 2 years. Not pity, not discomfort, just absolute, unwavering certainty. She let go. Marcus's hands clamped around her wrists like iron shackles. For one terrible moment, the full weight of her body and the wheelchair transferred to his grip, and Maya felt herself swing over the void. The Atlantic roared beneath her, close enough now to spray her face with freezing salt water. Then Marcus pulled. It was inhuman. The veins in his neck stood out like cables. His jaw locked so tight she could hear his teeth grinding. But he pulled hand over hand, dragging her up over the edge of the dock like she weighed nothing at all. The wheelchair scraped against the broken planks. One wheel caught on a splinter and nearly yanked her back down. Marcus adjusted, planted his boots against a crossbeam, and heaved with a grunt that sounded like it came from somewhere deeper than his chest. Maya's torso cleared the edge, then her hips, then the wheelchair tilting dangerously before Marcus grabbed the frame and hauled it up beside her. For a moment they lay there, both gasping for breath, the dock groaning ominously beneath them. "We need to move," Marcus said. "Now." He didn't wait for her to respond. He scooped her up, chair and all, and ran. Maya wrapped her arms around his neck, instinctively pressing her face against his shoulder as the world lurched and swayed around her. Behind them, there was a crack like a rifle shot. Marcus didn't look back. He cleared the dock, hit solid ground, and kept running until they were 20 feet from the water's edge. Only then did he stop setting her down on the frozen grass with a gentleness that seemed impossible given his size. Maya turned her head just in time to see the rest of the dock collapse into the ocean. The wood vanished beneath the waves like it had never existed at all. The Belgian Malinois appeared at her side, whining frantically, licking her frozen face. Maya grabbed the dog's fur and pulled him close, her whole body shaking with something more than cold. "Scout," she whispered into his neck. "Good boy, good boy." Marcus stood over them, his breath coming in visible puffs, his dark eyes scanning her with professional assessment. "You're hypothermic," he said. "We need to get you inside. Where do you live?" Maya pointed a trembling hand toward the lighthouse. Marcus nodded once, then picked her up again without asking permission. This time Maya didn't protest. She didn't have the strength. The lighthouse cottage was small but sturdy, built to withstand a century of Atlantic storms. Marcus kicked the door open. It wasn't locked, and carried her inside to the main room where a wood stove sat cold and dark. He set her down on a worn sofa, found blankets in a chest by the wall, and wrapped them around her with efficient, impersonal movements. Then he knelt by the stove and had a fire roaring within 3 minutes. Maya watched him work her teeth, chattering violently. Scout jumped onto the sofa and pressed his warm body against her side, his dark eyes never leaving her face. "You need to get out of those wet clothes," Marcus said, not looking at her. "Do you have dry clothes nearby?" "Bedroom, end of the hall." He disappeared and returned with sweatpants, a heavy wool sweater, and thick socks. He set them on the sofa beside her. "I'll wait outside," he said. "Call when you're changed." "I can't," Maya's voice caught. She hated this, hated the words that were about to come out of her mouth. "I can't feel my hands. I can't work the buttons." Marcus paused. His expression didn't change, but something in his posture shifted almost imperceptibly. "I can help," he said. "Or I can call emergency services." "No." The word came out harder than she intended. "No hospitals. No ambulances. I'm fine." "You're not fine. You're hypothermic and in shock." "I know what I am." Maya lifted her chin, meeting his eyes with a defiance that seemed absurd given her current state. "I'm also a grown woman who doesn't need to be carried off to some facility where they'll pat me on the head and tell me how brave I am. I've had enough of that to last a lifetime." Marcus studied her for a long moment. Then unexpectedly he nodded. "Fair enough," he said. "I'll help with the clothes. Keep your eyes on the fire." He was clinical about it. Professional. His hands moved quickly, and without hesitation unbuttoning her soaked jacket, helping her arms out of the sleeves, pulling the dry sweater over her head. He didn't look at her body. He didn't comment on the wheelchair or the legs that hung motionless beneath her. He simply did what needed to be done. "Pants are going to be harder," he said. "I know." Maya's cheeks burned despite the cold. "I usually do it lying down. It takes about 10 minutes. "We don't have 10 minutes. Your core temperature is still dropping." He met her eyes. "I'm a Navy SEAL, ma'am. I've treated field injuries that would make this look like a paper cut. I need you to trust me for about 60 seconds. Maya didn't trust anyone. That was the rule she had lived by since the accident. But this man had just pulled her out of the Atlantic Ocean with his bare hands, so she nodded. True to his word, it took about 60 seconds. He was efficient and respectful, and when it was done, Maya was wrapped in dry clothes and 3 wool blankets, her frozen hands wrapped around a mug of hot tea he had produced from her kitchen. The fire crackled. Scout settled at her feet, and the man who had saved her life stood by the window staring out at the storm. "How did you find me?" Maya asked. Marcus turned. "Your dog." "Scout." Maya looked down at the Belgian Malinois. "But he's afraid of strangers. He won't even let the mail carrier near the property." "He wasn't afraid of me." Marcus's voice was neutral, but something flickered in his eyes. He ran 3 miles through the woods to find me, grabbed my sleeve and wouldn't let go until I followed him. Maya stared at the dog. Scout looked back at her with those intelligent brown eyes, his tail thumping softly against the floor. "You're military," Maya said. It wasn't a question. "Navy, SEAL Team 3. And you just happened to be running through the woods at 5 in the morning in the middle of January." "I run every morning." Marcus's jaw tightened. "It helps." "Helps with what?" He didn't answer. Instead, he nodded toward the window. "Storm's getting worse. You're going to need that fire fed every few hours. Do you have enough wood inside?" "There's a cord stacked by the back door. I'll bring more in before I leave." He moved toward the door. "Wait." Maya set down the tea. "I don't even know your full name. I can't just let you leave without—" "Lieutenant Marcus Cole, Naval Station Brunswick, Station. You can send a thank you note to the base if it makes you feel better." He pulled on his jacket. "Get some sleep. Keep the dog close. He'll let you know if anything's wrong." "Lieutenant Cole." He stopped his hand on the doorknob. "Thank you," Maya said, "for saving my life." Marcus looked at her, really looked at her, and for just a moment the professional mask slipped. She saw exhaustion beneath it, pain, and something that looked almost like envy. "You're welcome," he said. "Take care of yourself, Maya." Then he was gone, the door closing behind him, leaving Maya alone with her dog and her fire and the howling wind. She should have felt relieved. She should have felt grateful. Instead, she felt something she hadn't felt in 2 years, curiosity about another human being. Who was Lieutenant Marcus Cole? And why had Scout a dog who trusted no one, trusted him enough to save her life? The questions followed her into an exhausted sleep, mixing with dreams of ice and water and a pair of dark eyes that held more pain than they would ever admit. She didn't know that across town, in a sparse military apartment, Marcus Cole was sitting in the dark staring at a photograph of a dog that looked almost exactly like Scout. The dog in the photograph had been named Ghost. He had been Marcus's partner for 6 years, through 4 deployments and countless missions. Ghost had died in Marcus's arms 8 months ago in a dusty Afghan village after taking a bullet meant for his handler. Marcus hadn't touched another dog since. He couldn't. The guilt was too heavy. But today, a Belgian Malinois puppy had grabbed his sleeve and refused to let go. Today, that dog had led him to a woman who was drowning. And for the first time in 8 months, Marcus had felt something other than grief. He didn't know what to do with that feeling. So he sat in the dark, and he waited for morning, and he tried not to think about the woman in the lighthouse with the defiant eyes and the useless legs and the dog that had chosen her. Some things couldn't be explained. Some connections couldn't be broken. And some rescues Marcus was beginning to realize went both ways. The next morning arrived gray and bitter, the storm having blown itself out sometime in the pre-dawn hours. Maya woke to Scout's cold nose pressing against her face and the sound of power tools whining somewhere outside her window. She sat up sharply, her heart hammering. Scout jumped off the sofa and ran to the front door, his tail wagging furiously. "What the hell?" Maya grabbed her wheelchair parked beside the sofa where Marcus had left it and transferred herself with practiced efficiency. Her arms screamed in protest. The muscles she had strained holding on to the dock made themselves known with every movement. She wheeled to the window and looked out. Lieutenant Marcus Cole was standing on her front porch, running a power drill into a new section of railing that hadn't existed yesterday. He was wearing work clothes instead of running gear, and there was a tool belt slung low on his hips. Maya stared for a full 30 seconds, before her brain caught up with her eyes. She opened the front door. The cold hit her like a slap, but she barely noticed. "What are you doing?" Marcus didn't stop drilling. "Your railing was rotted through. One good wind and the whole thing would have come down." "I didn't ask you to fix my railing." "No." He set down the drill and turned to face her. "You didn't. Then why are you here?" "Because I walked back to base last night and couldn't stop thinking about this house. The dock was a death trap. I'm betting the rest of the property isn't much better. And you're living here alone." He said it without judgment, just stating facts. "I figured someone should take a look." "Someone did take a look. The building inspector gave me a passing grade 6 months ago." "Then your building inspector should lose his license." Marcus gestured toward the corner of the porch. "That support beam is held together with rust and prayers. The wood on your ramp is soft enough to put my finger through, and those are just the things I can see from outside." Maya felt heat rising in her cheeks. "I don't need a handyman. I don't need a guardian angel. What I need is to be left alone." "Copy that." Marcus picked up the drill again. "I'll be done by noon. You won't see me again." He went back to work, as if she hadn't spoken. Maya wanted to scream at him. She wanted to wheel out there and knock the drill out of his hands and tell him that she didn't need anyone, that she had spent 2 years building a life that proved she could survive without help, that his presence here was undermining everything she had fought for. Instead, she went back inside and slammed the door. Scout whined at the sound, looking between Maya and the door with obvious confusion. "Don't give me that look," Maya muttered. "He's a stranger. We don't trust strangers." Scout's tail wagged once, twice. Then he padded over to the door and lay down in front of it, his nose pressed against the crack at the bottom. "Traitor," Maya said. But she didn't tell Marcus to leave. And when noon came and went, and he was still working, she found herself wheeling to the kitchen to make coffee. She told herself it was just coffee. It didn't mean anything. But when she opened the door and offered him a cup, and he took it with hands that were red from the cold, she saw something in his eyes that she recognized. Loneliness. It looked the same on him as it felt on her. "Thank you," Marcus said. "It's just coffee." "I know." He wrapped his hands around the mug. "But thank you anyway." They stood there in silence, the steam rising between them, and Maya felt something shift in her chest. A wall that had been solid for 2 years developed its first hairline crack. She didn't know yet that this man would change her life. She didn't know that the dog currently pressing against his legs would become the reason she learned to trust again. She didn't know that the worst storm of the century was coming, and that this quiet, broken soldier would be the only thing standing between her and destruction. All she knew was that for the first time in 2 years, she didn't want someone to leave. "The porch is going to take more than 1 day," she heard herself say. "If you want to come back tomorrow, I won't call the police." Marcus's lips twitched. It wasn't quite a smile, but it was close. "Understood," he said. "Same time, same time." He finished his coffee, set the mug on the railing, and went back to work. Maya went back inside, her heart beating in a rhythm she didn't recognize. Scout stayed by the door, watching over them both. And somewhere in the distance, the Atlantic Ocean churned against the rocks, patient and eternal, waiting to see what these 2 broken people would build from the wreckage of their lives. Marcus came back the next day, and the day after that, and the day after that. Maya told herself she was just being practical. The lighthouse needed repairs she couldn't afford to hire out. If some stranger wanted to work for free, who was she to argue? But by the end of the first week, she had stopped pretending. "You're watching me again," Marcus said without turning around. He was on his knees replacing the rotted boards on the wheelchair ramp, his breath forming clouds in the frigid air. I'm sketching, Maya corrected. She held up her pad as evidence. You just happen to be in my line of sight. Convenient. Very. Scout lay between them, his head swiveling back and forth like he was watching a tennis match. The puppy had become Marcus's shadow over the past 7 days, following him around the property with an intensity that bordered on obsession. He's never done that before, Maya said, nodding toward the dog. With anyone. The shelter said he was found wandering near an abandoned military base. They think he was bred for canine work but washed out of the program. Marcus's hands stilled on the wood, just for a moment. Then he resumed working. Makes sense, he said. He's got the drive, just no direction. What do you mean? Marcus sat back on his heels and looked at Scout. The dog immediately perked up, ears forward, body tense with anticipation. Dogs like him need a job. They're bred for it. Without purpose, all that energy turns destructive. He snapped his fingers once. Scout's head whipped toward the sound. See that he's waiting for a command. He wants to work. The shelter said he was untrainable. The shelter was wrong. Marcus stood brushing sawdust from his knees. He's not untrainable. He's untrained. There's a difference. Maya set down her sketchpad. And you know how to train him? I spent 12 years working with military canine units. I know a few things. Something in his voice made Maya pause. A heaviness that hadn't been there before. You had a dog, she said. It wasn't a question. Marcus didn't answer. He picked up his drill and went back to work. Maya didn't push. She had her own subjects she didn't discuss with strangers. But she filed the information away, another piece of the puzzle that was Lieutenant Marcus Cole. The training started the next morning. Maya wheeled herself onto the porch with her coffee, expecting to see Marcus working on the gutters he had mentioned yesterday. Instead, she found him in the yard with Scout running the dog through a series of commands she had never seen before. Heel. Scout snapped to Marcus's left side, his shoulder aligned with Marcus's knee. Forward. They moved together, the dog matching the man's pace exactly. Halt. Both stopped simultaneously. Maya watched in amazement. This was the same dog that had knocked over her easel 3 times last week. The same dog that chased seagulls until he collapsed from exhaustion. The same dog that couldn't walk past a squirrel without losing his mind. How are you doing that? She called out. Marcus looked up. Doing what? Making him act like a different animal. I'm not making him do anything. I'm showing him what he already knows. Marcus scratched Scout behind the ears. The dog leaned into his hand with obvious pleasure. He was bred for this. The instincts are all there. He just needed someone to speak his language. Maya felt something twist in her chest. No one's ever been able to reach him like that. Maybe no one tried the right way. There was no accusation in his voice, but Maya felt it anyway. She had adopted Scout because she wanted companionship without the complications of human relationship. She hadn't thought about what the dog needed. Can you teach me? The words came out before she could stop them. Marcus tilted his head, considering. It'll take time and consistency. Dogs like him need structure. I have time. Maya gestured at the lighthouse, at the empty property, at the life she had built in isolation. In case you haven't noticed, my social calendar isn't exactly overflowing. The corner of Marcus's mouth twitched. It still wasn't quite a smile, but it was closer than yesterday. Tomorrow morning, he said, 0600. We start with basics. 6 in the morning. Are you insane? Dogs don't understand weekends. Neither do soldiers. He gathered up the training lead. See you at 0600. Maya opened her mouth to argue, then closed it. She had asked for this. and something about the way Marcus said it, like he expected her to show up like he believed she could do it, made her want to prove him right. "Fine," she said, "but you're making the coffee." "Deal." He left without saying goodbye, the same way he always did. Maya watched him go. Scout pressed against her leg, and wondered when she had started looking forward to tomorrow. The first training session was a disaster. "No," Marcus said for the 15th time. "Don't jerk the lead. Guide it. He's not a fish you're trying to reel in." "I'm not jerking it. You're jerking it! Watch!" Marcus demonstrated his movements fluid and precise. Scout responded instantly, sitting at his heel like he'd been doing it his whole life. Then Marcus handed the lead back to Maya. Scout immediately started pulling toward a seagull on the fence. "Guide him," Marcus said. "Don't fight him. Redirect his attention." "I'm trying. Try harder." Maya's temper flared. "Easy for you to say. You've got working legs. You can actually move with him." The words hung in the air, ugly and bitter. Maya regretted them immediately, but she couldn't take them back. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was calm. "Stand up." "What?" "I said stand up. I can't stand up. In case you haven't noticed, my legs don't work." "Your legs don't work. Your arms do. Your core does. Your brain does." Marcus crouched down until he was eye level with her. "You're treating the chair like a prison. It's not. It's a tool. Use it." "You don't understand." "I understand that you won an Olympic bronze medal in figure skating when you were 19 years old. I understand that you spent 2 decades training your body to do impossible things. I understand that you didn't get there by making excuses." Maya's breath caught. "How do you know about that?" "I looked you up." Marcus's expression didn't change. Maya Hartwell, former Olympic figure skater. Paralyzed from the waist down after a drunk driver hit her car on I-95 3 years ago. Now living alone in a lighthouse in Maine, illustrating children's books and refusing help from anyone who offers. "You had no right. I had every right. You're living alone on a property that's falling apart with a dog that could pull you into traffic and no emergency plan if something goes wrong." His voice softened slightly. "I needed to know who I was helping." Maya's hands were shaking, with anger, with humiliation, with something else she couldn't name. "So now you know," she said. "Now you know I used to be someone. Before. You're still someone. I'm half a person in a chair." "You're a whole person in a chair." Marcus stood up, his knees popping. "The chair is a tool, Maya, not a definition. Now pick up the lead and try again." Maya wanted to argue. She wanted to wheel herself inside and slam the door and never see this man again. Instead, she picked up the lead. They practiced for 2 more hours. By the end, Scout was responding to her commands, about half the time a dramatic improvement from 0. Maya's arms ached. Her voice was hoarse from giving commands, and she was more exhausted than she'd been since the accident. "Same time tomorrow," Marcus said, packing up the training gear. "You're enjoying this," Maya accused. "Torturing me." "I'm preparing you. There's a difference." He left before she could respond. Maya sat in the yard with Scout's head in her lap, watching the sun climb higher over the Atlantic. She had been prepared once. Prepared to compete at the highest levels. Prepared to win medals and sign endorsements and dance across the ice, like gravity was just a suggestion. Then a drunk driver had taken it all away in a single terrible moment. She had spent 3 years being unprepared for the life she found herself in. Maybe it was time to change that. The nightmare came on the 3rd week. Marcus had stayed late to finish reinforcing the cellar doors before the next storm hit. Maya had insisted on making dinner the least she could do, she said, for all the free labor. They had eaten together at her small kitchen table, while Scout lay at their feet, and for a few hours the lighthouse had felt less like an exile and more like a home. Marcus had fallen asleep on the couch afterward. Maya hadn't had the heart to wake him. She heard the screaming at 2 a.m. Her eyes snapped open. For a moment, she thought someone was being attacked. Then she recognized the voice. "Get down! Get down now!" As she grabbed her chair and transferred as quickly as her sleep-heavy body would allow, wheeling herself down the dark hallway toward the living room. "Ghost, hold position! Ghost!" Maya stopped in the doorway, her heart hammering. Marcus was thrashing on the couch, his face contorted with terror. His hands were clawing at the cushions like he was trying to dig through them. Sweat soaked his shirt, and his breathing came in ragged, hyperventilating gasps. "No, no, no, no," his voice broke. Stay with me, buddy. Don't go." Scout was already there, whining frantically, trying to climb onto the couch. The dog's instincts had kicked in his body, pressing against Marcus's legs, but it wasn't enough. "Marcus!" Maya wheeled closer. "Marcus, wake up!" He didn't hear her. He was somewhere else, somewhere terrible. "Cover me, I'm going back for him." Marcus's body jackknifed upward. "I'm not leaving him. Marcus!" Maya grabbed his arm. His hand shot out and clamped around her wrist with crushing force. For one terrifying second, his eyes opened, but didn't see her. They saw enemies. Threats. Then Scout barked sharp and commanding. Marcus blinked. His grip loosened. Recognition flooded back into his eyes, followed immediately by horror. "Maya!" He released her wrist like it was on fire. "God, did I hurt you?" "I'm fine." She rubbed her wrist, which would definitely bruise. "You were having a nightmare." Marcus sat up, running shaking hands over his face. His whole body was trembling. Scout climbed onto the couch and pressed against his side, and this time Marcus let him. "I'm sorry," he said. "I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have fallen asleep. This happens sometimes. I should have warned you." "Who's Ghost?" Marcus's head snapped up. The look on his face was like she'd stabbed him. "You were calling for someone named Ghost," Maya said. "You kept saying you weren't going to leave him." The silence stretched so long Maya thought he wasn't going to answer. Then Marcus spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "Ghost was my dog. My partner. We worked together for 6 years. He was..." Marcus's voice cracked. "He was the best dog I ever knew." "What happened?" Marcus stared at the wall. When he spoke, his voice was flat, drained of everything. "Afghanistan. 8 months ago. We were clearing a village when we got ambushed. I got pinned down behind a wall. Ghost was 30 feet away, doing exactly what he was trained to do, holding position, keeping the insurgents from flanking us." He paused, his jaw working. "One of them got a clean shot. Caught Ghost in the chest. He went down, but he didn't die. He just lay there, looking at me, waiting for me to come get him." "Marcus, I tried to get to him, but every time I moved they opened up. My team was screaming at me to hold position. I could hear Ghost whimpering. I could see him trying to crawl toward me." Marcus's voice broke completely. "It took him 4 minutes to die. 4 minutes while I sat behind that wall and did nothing. I watched my partner bleed out because I couldn't get to him." Maya's hand found his without her thinking about it. His fingers were ice cold. "It wasn't your fault," she said. "I was his handler. I was responsible for him. You couldn't have saved him without dying yourself." "Maybe I should have died." The words were so quiet, Maya almost missed them. Maybe that would have been better than living with this. "No." Maya's grip tightened. "That's the grief talking, not you." Marcus finally looked at her. His eyes were red-rimmed, his face haggard. "How do you know the difference?" Maya thought about the months after her accident, the darkness that had swallowed her whole, the nights she had spent wondering if it would be easier to just stop fighting. "Because I've had the same conversation with myself," she said. After the accident, I thought my life was over. I thought everything that mattered had been taken away. I spent 6 months wishing I had died in that car. Marcus's breath caught. What changed? He asked. I got angry. Maya almost smiled. I got so angry at everyone who expected me to give up. My family, my doctors, even myself. I decided I'd rather live out of spite than die proving them right. That's not exactly inspirational. No, but it was honest. And sometimes honest is enough to get you to tomorrow. They sat in silence, hands still linked, while Scout's breathing slowly evened out between them. The lighthouse groaned in the wind, old bones settling. I can't look at dogs, Marcus finally said. After Ghost died, I couldn't even see a dog without falling apart. That's why I was running at 5 in the morning when Scout found me. I was running to avoid the neighbor's golden retriever. Maya looked at Scout, whose head was resting on Marcus's thigh. He seems to have cured that problem. Marcus let out something that was almost a laugh. He's stubborn. He didn't give me a choice. Good dogs are like that. Maya squeezed his hand. They know what we need better than we do. Marcus looked at her, then really looked at her, and something shifted in his expression. You pulled me out of that nightmare, he said. You and Scout. You pulled me out of the ocean. I figure we're working toward even. I don't think we'll ever be even. Then I guess you'll have to stick around. The words hung between them heavier than Maya had intended. She had meant it as a joke, but it didn't come out that way. Marcus didn't look away. I'm not going anywhere, he said. It sounded like a promise. The trouble started 3 days later. Mrs. Brennan's silver Mercedes pulled into Maya's driveway at precisely 10 a.m., early enough to be rude, late enough to ensure Maya was awake. The old woman emerged from the car like a queen descending from her carriage, clutching her designer handbag like a shield. Maya watched from the window with a sinking feeling. Scout, she said. We have company. The dog's ears flattened. Even he knew what Mrs. Brennan's visits meant. Maya opened the door before the woman could knock, hoping to keep the encounter as brief as possible. Mrs. Brennan, what brings you out here? Concern, dear. The old woman's eyes swept over Maya's wheelchair, then past her into the house. Pure concern for a young woman living alone in such an isolated location. I appreciate that, but I'm fine. Are you? Mrs. Brennan's smile didn't reach her eyes. Because I couldn't help but notice that there's been a man coming and going from your property. Quite regularly, in fact. Maya's stomach dropped. That's Marcus. He's been helping with repairs. Repairs? Mrs. Brennan made the word sound obscene. Yes, I've seen the repairs. I've also seen him staying quite late, and leaving quite early. He's a friend. A friend who happens to be a drifter. A man with no visible means of support hanging around a vulnerable young woman in a wheelchair. Maya's hands tightened on her wheels. He's a Navy SEAL, Mrs. Brennan, stationed at Brunswick. So he claims. The old woman leaned closer. I've made some inquiries, dear. No one at the base has ever heard of him. That was a lie. Maya was certain it was a lie, but a cold finger of doubt traced down her spine anyway. Your inquiries are not my concern, Maya said. My property and my guests are my business. They become my business when they affect property values. Mrs. Brennan's mask slipped, revealing the steel underneath. This is a respectable community, Maya. We don't take kindly to strangers, especially strangers who prey on vulnerable women. He's not preying on me. That's what they all say, until they disappear with your savings and leave you worse off than before. Mrs. Brennan turned to leave, then paused. Oh, I nearly forgot. I took the liberty of contacting your stepmother. Victoria was very interested to hear about your living situation. Maya's blood ran cold. You had no right, I had every right. Someone needs to look out for your best interests, since you clearly won't do it yourself. Mrs. Brennan walked back to her car. You'll thank me later, dear, when you're safe in a proper facility where you belong. The Mercedes disappeared down the driveway, leaving Maya alone with the weight of what had just happened. Victoria knew. Her stepmother knew about Marcus, about the lighthouse, about everything. And Victoria Hartwell didn't let things go. Maya's phone rang an hour later. She almost didn't answer, but she knew avoiding it would only make things worse. Maya. Victoria's voice was cold silk. We need to talk about your situation. There's nothing to talk about. On the contrary, there's a great deal to discuss, starting with the stranger who's apparently taken up residence on your property. He hasn't taken up residence. He's helping with repairs. Repairs you can't afford, which means he's either working for free suspicious or you're paying him some other way. Victoria let the implication hang. Either way, it demonstrates a clear lack of judgment. Maya gripped the phone so tight her knuckles went white. I'm not having this conversation. You'll have it whether you want to or not. I've already contacted our attorney about initiating a competency hearing. Given your isolation, your obvious vulnerability, and now this questionable relationship with an unknown man. Marcus is not unknown. He's a decorated naval officer. So you claim. But even if that's true, it only raises more questions. Why would a decorated officer spend his free time fixing up a lighthouse for a disabled woman he barely knows? What does he want from you, Maya? Maya couldn't answer. She didn't have an answer. Your father left that property to me in trust, Victoria continued. I have an obligation to ensure it's being properly maintained and that you're not being taken advantage of. If you can't demonstrate sound judgment, I'll have no choice but to intervene. I won't let you put me in a facility. You may not have a choice. Victoria's voice softened, turning sweet and poisonous. I'm doing this for your own good, dear. I'm your family. I only want what's best for you. The line went dead. Maya sat in the silence, her mind racing. She had worked so hard to build this life, to prove she could survive on her own. And now Victoria was going to take it all away. Unless Maya pushed away the only person who had made her feel alive in 3 years. When Marcus arrived the next morning, Maya was waiting for him on the porch. We need to talk, she said. Marcus stopped halfway up the ramp. He read her face in an instant. What happened? My stepmother called. She's threatening a competency hearing. She wants to have me declared unable to manage my own affairs. Marcus's expression darkened. On what grounds? You, Maya's voice cracked. You're the grounds. The neighbors have been watching. They've been reporting back to her. A strange man spending time with the disabled woman. It doesn't look good. I'm not strange. I'm a SEAL. She doesn't believe that. Or she doesn't care. Maya gripped her wheels. Marcus, if she wins this hearing, she'll take everything. The lighthouse, my career, my independence. She'll lock me away in some facility and I'll never get out. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was careful. What do you want me to do? The question broke something in Maya's chest, because she knew what she should say. She should tell him to leave, to stay away, to give Victoria no ammunition for her case. But the words wouldn't come. I don't know, she whispered. I don't know what to do. Marcus climbed the rest of the ramp and knelt beside her chair, putting himself at her eye level. I'm not going to make this decision for you, he said. But I need you to know something. I'm not here because I pity you. I'm not here because I want something from you. I'm here because being around you and Scout is the first time I've felt human since Ghost died. Maya's vision blurred with tears. Your stepmother doesn't know me. She doesn't know what I've seen or what I've done or what I'm capable of. If she wants a fight, I'll give her one. But only if you want me to stay. I want you to stay. The words came out fierce and certain. I want you to stay more than I've wanted anything in 3 years. Marcus took her hand. Then I'm staying, he said, and we'll figure out the rest together. Scout barked once, sharp and approving, and pressed himself between them like he was sealing the deal. Maya laughed through her tears. "I think that means he agrees," she said. "Smart dog." Marcus stood pulling her hand up with him and pressing his lips to her knuckles. "Now, let's get to work." They had a lighthouse to save, and a family to fight. The invitation arrived on a Tuesday, tucked between electric bills and junk mail, like it didn't carry the weight of Maya's entire past. She stared at the cream-colored envelope for a full minute before opening it. The Portland Museum of Art logo gleamed in gold embossing. Inside elegant script announced that Maya Hartwell had been selected as the featured artist for the annual Winter Charity Gala in recognition of her Caldecott-winning illustrations for The Boy Who Caught the Moon. Scout nudged her knee, sensing her distress. "They want me to give a speech," Maya said to the dog. "They want me to stand up in front of 300 people and accept an award." Scout whined. "I can't stand up, Scout. That's the whole problem." Marcus found her an hour later, still holding the invitation, her coffee gone cold, beside her. "What's wrong?" he asked immediately. Maya handed him the envelope without speaking. Marcus read it twice, then looked at her with an expression she couldn't decipher. "This is huge," he said. "Maya, this is a national award." "I know what it is. So why do you look like someone just delivered bad news?" Maya laughed bitterly. "Because I know exactly what's going to happen. I'll wheel myself up there and everyone will clap. Not because of my art, because I managed to do something impressive despite being in a wheelchair. I'll be the inspiration of the evening. The brave little crippled girl who didn't give up." "You don't know that's how it'll be." "I've been to these events before, Marcus. After my accident, I was invited to everything. Charity galas, motivational speaking events, disability awareness fundraisers. They didn't want me. They wanted my story. They wanted to feel good about themselves for applauding a tragedy." She crumpled the invitation and threw it across the room. Scout immediately retrieved it, dropping the wrinkled paper at Marcus's feet. "I stopped going," Maya continued. "I stopped letting them use me, and I'm not going to start again just because my book won some award." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then he knelt down and picked up the invitation, smoothing out the creases with careful hands. "Can I tell you something?" he asked. "Can I stop you?" "No." He sat on the edge of the couch, close enough to touch her, but not quite touching. "I've been to a lot of events where people saw the uniform before they saw me. They'd thank me for my service, shake my hand, buy me drinks. And I hated it, because they weren't seeing Marcus Cole. They were seeing a symbol." Maya looked at him. "So you understand?" "I understand wanting to hide. I understand the temptation to disappear." He leaned forward. "But I also understand that sometimes the only way to change the narrative is to show up and rewrite it yourself." "What does that mean?" "It means they're expecting the brave, disabled girl. So don't give them that. Give them the artist. Give them the woman who created something beautiful enough to win a national award. Make them see the work, not the wheelchair." "Easy for you to say. You can walk." "I can also carry you." Maya's breath caught. "What? You heard me." Marcus's voice was steady. "If you want to go to that gala, I'll take you. I'll be your legs for the night. I'll push your chair, I'll stand behind you while you speak, and I'll make sure every single person in that room sees you the way I see you." "How do you see me?" Marcus held her gaze. "Like a warrior who refuses to stay down." Maya's eyes burned. She blinked hard, refusing to cry. "You'd really do that," she whispered. "You'd put on a suit and spend the whole night pushing me around. I was thinking more along the lines of dress whites." Maya stared at him. "Your military uniform. If I'm going to escort the Artist of the Year, I should probably look the part." The corner of his mouth twitched. Besides, it might make your stepmother think twice about the competency hearing. Hard to argue you're being taken advantage of by a decorated naval officer. For the first time in weeks, Maya felt something loosen in her chest. Hope, maybe, or something close to it. "You're serious," she said. "I'm always serious." Maya looked at the crumpled invitation in his hands. 300 people. A speech. The spotlight she had spent 3 years avoiding. "Okay," she heard herself say. "I'll go, but if anyone calls me brave or inspiring, I'm wheeling over their feet." Deal. The night of the gala arrived faster than Maya was ready for. She had spent 3 hours getting ready, longer than she'd spent on anything since the accident. The dress was emerald green velvet, high-necked and elegant, chosen specifically because it looked stunning from a seated position. Her hair was swept up, exposing the long line of her neck. She wore her mother's pearls, the only thing Victoria hadn't managed to take. But none of that mattered when Marcus appeared at her door. He stood in the doorway, dressed in full naval dress whites, the uniform reserved for formal occasions. Gold buttons gleamed against the pristine fabric. Ribbons and medals lined his chest in precise rows. His dark hair was brushed back, his jaw freshly shaved, his posture ramrod straight. Maya forgot how to breathe. "Lieutenant reporting for duty," Marcus said. "You look—" Maya's voice failed her. "You look like a queen." She felt heat rise to her cheeks. "I look like a woman in a wheelchair." "Or you look like a woman who's about to remind everyone in that room what real strength looks like." He offered his hand. "Ready?" "No." "Good. Neither am I." He smiled a real smile this time and took her hand. "Let's go be uncomfortable together." The museum was transformed for the gala. Maya could tell by the music drifting from inside, the murmur of expensive conversations, the clink of champagne glasses. But she barely noticed any of it as Marcus pushed her through the double doors. The moment they entered, heads turned. Maya felt the familiar weight of stares pressing down on her. But this time, something was different. People weren't just looking at her wheelchair. They were looking at Marcus, at the uniform, the medals, the commanding presence behind her chair. "Shoulders back," Marcus murmured. "You own this room." "I don't own anything." "Then fake it." They made their way through the crowd. People parted for them, whispering behind gloved hands. Maya caught fragments of conversation. "Is that her? And the wheelchair girl? And who's the soldier?" Then a voice cut through the murmur, smooth and cultured and dripping with false warmth. "Maya, darling." Maya's blood turned to ice. Victoria Hartwell emerged from a cluster of donors, her silver hair immaculate, her designer gown probably costing more than Maya earned in a year. Beside her stood Elliot, Maya's half-brother, looking bored and predatory in equal measure. "Stepmother," Maya said flatly. "I didn't know you'd be here." "Of course I'm here. I'm on the museum board." Victoria's eyes swept over Marcus, calculating and dismissive. "And who is this Lieutenant Marcus Cole, ma'am?" Marcus's voice was polite but cold. "United States Navy." "How charming." Victoria's smile didn't reach her eyes. "I didn't realize Maya needed military escort." "She doesn't need it. She deserves it." Something flickered in Victoria's expression. Surprise, maybe. Or annoyance. "I see." She turned back to Maya. "We should talk, privately, about your living situation." "There's nothing to discuss." "On the contrary, the competency hearing is scheduled for next month. I thought you should know." Maya felt like she'd been punched. "You filed already. I had no choice. You've made it clear you won't see reason. This way a judge can determine what's best for everyone." Victoria's voice dropped to a whisper. Don't make a scene tonight, Maya. Accept your little award smile for the cameras, and then we can discuss this like civilized people. She glided away before Maya could respond, Elliot trailing behind her with a smirk. Marcus's hand tightened on the wheelchair handles. I want to break her nose. Get in line. She's bluffing about the hearing. She has to be. Victoria doesn't bluff. Maya's voice was hollow. She's been planning this since my father died. The lighthouse, the trust fund, everything she wants it all. And she'll use my disability to get it. She won't win. You don't know that. I know you. Marcus moved around to face her, crouching down, so they were eye level. I know you don't give up. I know you don't surrender. And I know that woman has no idea what she's up against. Maya looked into his eyes and saw something fierce burning there. Something that made her believe for just a moment that maybe she could fight this. The speech, she said. I have to give the speech. You don't have to do anything. Yes, I do. Maya squared her shoulders. If Victoria wants to use tonight against me, I'm going to make it impossible. I'm going to stand up there and remind everyone exactly who I am. Marcus nodded slowly. Then let's show them. The speech was scheduled for 9 p.m. Maya used the intervening hours to network, to shake hands, to let people see her as the artist instead of the tragedy. Marcus stayed at her side, a silent guardian, his presence commanding respect without a word. But it was the dance that changed everything. The orchestra struck up a waltz at 8:30. Couples began drifting toward the dance floor, swirling in elegant patterns. Maya watched them with an ache she thought she'd buried years ago. I used to dance, she said quietly. Before the accident. Not ballroom, obviously, but skating was dancing, just on ice. Marcus was silent for a moment. Then he stepped around to face her. Dance with me. Maya laughed. Marcus, I can't dance. You can't skate. You can't walk. But dancing. He held out his hand. Dancing is about connection. About movement. About trusting your partner. Everyone is watching. Let them watch. Maya looked at his outstretched hand. She looked at the dance floor full of able-bodied couples, spinning in perfect synchronization. She looked at Victoria, standing by the champagne table, waiting for Maya to fail. She took his hand. Marcus led her to the center of the floor. Conversations stopped. Music played. 300 pairs of eyes fixed on the soldier and the woman in the wheelchair. Marcus didn't push her chair in circles like she expected. Instead, he released the handles and stepped in front of her, taking both her hands in his. Trust me, he said. Then he began to move. He pulled her forward, and the wheelchair rolled with her smooth and controlled. He stepped back, drawing her with him, then spun on his heel, and guided the chair in a wide arc. Maya gasped as the world whirled around her centrifugal force, pressing her back into the seat. It was like skating. It was exactly like skating. Marcus dipped low, bringing her chair into a controlled descent, then swept her back up with a flourish. He moved with the precision of military training and the grace of a natural dancer, making the wheelchair disappear into the movement. Maya found herself laughing. Actually laughing. Her body remembered things her legs had forgotten how to arch her back, how to extend her arms, how to let the music carry her. Marcus spun her one final time as the song reached its crescendo, bringing the chair to a perfect stop, just as the last note faded. Silence. Then applause exploded through the ballroom. Not polite applause, thunderous, genuine, overwhelmed applause. Maya looked up at Marcus, her eyes bright with tears she refused to shed. You taught me to fly again, she whispered. You never stopped flying. He bent down his forehead, nearly touching hers. "You just forgot." The speech happened. Maya couldn't remember most of it afterward, just the words pouring out of her, real and raw and unscripted. She talked about art. She talked about loss. She talked about finding reasons to keep creating, even when the world went dark. She didn't mention her wheelchair once. When she finished, the standing ovation lasted 3 full minutes. Victoria's face was stone. Elliot had disappeared entirely, and Marcus stood behind her, his hand on her shoulder, anchoring her to something that felt suspiciously like hope. They were driving home when the emergency alert blared from Marcus's phone. He pulled over immediately, checking the screen. His face went gray. "What is it?" Maya asked. "Storm warning. A nor'easter changed course. It's hitting the coast in the next 6 hours." He looked at her. "It's going to be bad, Maya. Category 3 equivalent." "The lighthouse. Can't take that kind of wind, not in its current condition." Maya's heart hammered. "Then we need to get back, now." Marcus was already pulling back onto the road, pushing the truck as fast as he dared. The radio crackled with emergency broadcasts, evacuation orders, road closures, predictions of historic damage. "We should go to the base," Marcus said. "Wait it out there." "No." "Maya, Scout is at the lighthouse. I'm not leaving him." Marcus's jaw tightened. "Then I'm not leaving you." They reached Beacon Point just as the first bands of rain began to lash the coast. The lighthouse stood against the darkening sky, like a monument to defiance, its old bones groaning in the rising wind. Marcus got Maya inside, then went back out to secure what he could. Shutters, doors, anything that might become a projectile. Scout was frantic, pacing the rooms with his ears flat, whining at every gust of wind. "Easy, boy." Maya pulled him close. "It's going to be okay." But she didn't believe it. And from the look in Scout's eyes, neither did he. The storm hit at 2 a.m. Maya had never experienced anything like it. The wind didn't howl, it screamed. The lighthouse shook with every gust rattling dishes in the cabinets and creaking in joints that hadn't been tested in decades. Marcus had built a fire, but the flames guttered and died when the chimney pressure changed. Now they sat in darkness, listening to the world try to tear itself apart outside. "It's worse than they predicted," Marcus said. His voice was calm, but Maya could hear the tension beneath it. "How much worse?" Before he could answer, something massive struck the side of the lighthouse. The impact threw Maya from her chair. She hit the floor hard, the breath exploding from her lungs. Scout yelped and scrambled toward her. "Maya!" Marcus was at her side in an instant, checking for injuries. "Are you hurt?" I can't." Another impact. The wall behind them buckled. "We need to move." Marcus scooped her up, chair forgotten. "The east wing is compromised. We need to get to the cellar." He carried her through the house while the storm raged around them. Scout ran ahead, barking, leading the way. Maya clung to Marcus's neck, her face pressed against his chest, feeling his heart pound beneath the fabric. They were 10 feet from the cellar door when the ceiling gave way. Marcus threw himself forward, covering Maya with his body, as debris rained down. She heard him grunt, a sharp, pained sound, but he didn't let go. He kept moving, dragging them both toward the cellar as the lighthouse collapsed around them. The cellar door was stuck. Marcus set Maya down, braced himself, and kicked. Once, twice. The third kick splintered the frame and the door flew open. He pushed Maya through first, then Scout, then threw himself after them just as a beam crashed down where they'd been standing. In the darkness of the cellar, surrounded by the muffled roar of the storm, Maya realized Marcus wasn't moving. "Marcus!" She crawled toward him, her useless legs dragging behind her. "Marcus!" He was lying face down, one arm pinned beneath a fallen timber. Blood pooled beneath his shoulder black in the darkness. "I'm okay," he rasped. Just got clipped. You're not okay. You're bleeding. I've bled worse. Marcus, check on Scout. Maya didn't want to leave him, but the dog was whimpering somewhere in the darkness. She pulled herself toward the sound, finding Scout huddled in a corner, trembling but uninjured. He's okay, she called back. He's scared, but okay. She heard Marcus laugh, a weak, painful sound. Good. That's good. Maya crawled back to him, her arms burning with the effort. She found his hand in the darkness and held on tight. You shielded me, she said. You put yourself between me and the ceiling. Old habit. You could have been killed. So could you. His fingers tightened around hers. I'd rather it be me. Don't say that. It's true. His voice was fading. Maya, I need you to know something. Save your strength. I love you. The words hung in the darkness, fragile and fierce. I've loved you since the day you told me you didn't need a guardian angel, Marcus continued. I love your stubbornness and your fire and the way you look at Scout like he hung the moon. I love that you fight even when you're terrified. I love that you make me want to fight too. Maya's tears fell onto their joined hands. I love you too, she whispered. I think I've loved you since you carried me out of that ocean. Marcus laughed again, softer this time. Then we're both idiots. The best kind of idiots. The storm raged above them. The lighthouse groaned and cracked. But in the darkness of the cellar, two broken people held on to each other and refused to let go. Scout pressed himself between them, providing warmth and comfort and the steady reassurance of his heartbeat. Hours passed. The storm began to weaken. And somewhere above them, the first pale fingers of dawn began to reach through the wreckage. They had survived. But Maya knew, as consciousness faded and exhaustion claimed her, that the real battle was still coming. Victoria would not stop. The hearing would not disappear. And the life she had built, the life she was only now beginning to believe in, hung by the thinnest of threads. She gripped Marcus's hand tighter and refused to let go. Whatever came next, they would face it together. The rescue team found them at dawn. Maya heard the voices first shouting mechanical professional. Then flashlight beams cut through the cellar darkness, and suddenly there were hands everywhere, pulling away debris, checking vitals, asking questions she couldn't process. Ma'am, can you hear me, ma'am? Marcus? Maya gripped the paramedic's arm. Help him first. He's hurt. We've got him. We've got both of you. They lifted her onto a stretcher despite her protests. Scout barked frantically as strangers surrounded them, but one of the rescue workers, a woman with kind eyes, knelt down and spoke to him in a calm voice until he settled. The dog saved your lives, someone said. He was barking at the cellar door when we arrived. Led us right to you. Maya turned her head, searching for Marcus. They had him on another stretcher, an oxygen mask over his face, his shoulder wrapped in bloody bandages. His eyes found hers across the chaos. I'm okay, he mouthed. She didn't believe him, but she held on to his words like a lifeline as they carried them both out into the pale morning light. The lighthouse was devastated. Maya saw it in glimpses as they loaded her into the ambulance, the collapsed east wing, the shattered windows, the ancient oak tree that had stood for 100 years, now lying across the ruins like a fallen giant. Everything she had built, everything she had fought for, gone. Don't look, the paramedic said gently. We need to get you to the hospital. I don't need a hospital. Ma'am, you've been trapped in a cellar for 6 hours in freezing temperatures. You need to be evaluated. Maya wanted to argue, but exhaustion was pulling her under, and the last thing she saw before darkness claimed her was Marcus's stretcher being loaded into a separate ambulance, his hand reaching toward her across the impossible distance. She woke in a hospital bed with Scout's face inches from hers. "How did you—" Maya blinked, confused. The dog was lying beside her on the narrow mattress, his head on her pillow, his dark eyes watching her with fierce devotion. "I snuck him in." Maya turned. Marcus was sitting in a chair beside her bed, his arm in a sling, his face pale but alert. He looked like he'd been run over by a truck, but he was smiling. "You're supposed to be in your own room," Maya said. "I was. Then I got bored." He reached over and took her hand. "How do you feel?" "Like the lighthouse fell on me." "It almost did." "How bad is your shoulder?" "Torn rotator cuff. They want to do surgery, but I told them I had more important things to worry about." His thumb traced circles on her palm. "Like making sure you were okay." "I'm okay because of you," Maya's voice cracked. "You almost died protecting me." "I'd do it again." "That's not comforting." "It's not supposed to be comforting. It's supposed to be true." Marcus leaned closer. "I meant what I said in the cellar, Maya. Every word." Maya remembered. She remembered his confession, his voice rough with pain and honesty. She remembered her own words spoken in the darkness. "I meant it too," she whispered. Marcus lifted her hand to his lips and kissed her knuckles. It was a gentle gesture, almost reverent. Scout's tail thumped against the mattress in approval. "Your stepmother is here," Marcus said quietly. Maya's blood went cold. "What?" "She arrived an hour ago. She's been talking to the hospital administrator about transferring you to a facility in New York." His jaw tightened. "She's using the storm as evidence that you can't take care of yourself." "She can't do that." "She's trying." Marcus stood wincing as the movement jarred his injured shoulder. "But she's going to have to go through me first." "Marcus, no. You're hurt. You need to rest." "I need to protect you. That's more important than rest." He looked down at her, and something fierce burned in his eyes. "Get dressed. If we're going to fight this, we fight it together." Maya wanted to argue, but she knew he was right. Hiding in a hospital bed wasn't going to stop Victoria. Nothing would stop Victoria, except confrontation. "Help me into the chair," she said. They found Victoria in the hospital administrator's office, her voice carrying through the closed door. Obviously incapable of making rational decisions. She nearly died in that storm because she refused to evacuate. The property is destroyed. She has no resources, no support system, and now this military man has inserted himself into her life under suspicious circumstances. Marcus pushed the door open without knocking. Victoria stopped mid-sentence. The administrator, a nervous-looking man in a rumpled suit, jumped to his feet. Elliot, lounging against the wall, straightened with surprise. "Maya!" Victoria recovered quickly, her face arranging itself into an expression of concern. "Darling, you should be resting." "I'm done resting." Maya wheeled herself into the room, Scout padding beside her. "And I'm done listening to you try to steal my life." "Steal your—" Victoria laughed, a sharp, brittle sound. "I'm trying to save your life. You almost died last night because of your stubborn refusal to accept help." "I had help. I had Marcus. Ah, yes, the mysterious soldier." Victoria's eyes flicked to Marcus with barely concealed contempt. "The man who appeared out of nowhere and has been living on your property for weeks. I've made some inquiries, Lieutenant Cole. No one at the naval station seems to know anything about you." "That's because you've been asking the wrong people." Marcus's voice was calm but cold. "I'm assigned to SEAL Team 3, currently on medical leave, following a deployment to Afghanistan. My commanding officer is Captain James Morrison. You're welcome to call him." Victoria's smile faltered slightly. "Regardless, your presence doesn't change the facts. Maya is clearly incapable of managing her own affairs. The lighthouse is destroyed, her finances are in shambles, and she's formed an inappropriate attachment to a stranger." "There's nothing inappropriate about it," Maya said. "You've known him for, 2 months, and you're already defending him over your own family." Victoria shook her head. "This is exactly what I'm talking about. Poor judgment, emotional instability, vulnerability to manipulation. The only person who's ever tried to manipulate me is you." Victoria's mask cracked. For just a moment, Maya saw the real woman underneath, calculating, ruthless, desperate to win. "I'm doing this for your own good, Maya." "No, you're doing this for the trust fund, for the lighthouse property, for everything my father left to me instead of you." Maya rolled closer, her voice steady despite the trembling in her hands. "He knew what you were, Victoria. That's why he set up the trust. That's why he made sure you couldn't touch any of it unless I was declared incompetent." "That's absurd." "Is it? Then why are you so determined to lock me away? Why have you spent 3 years trying to prove I can't take care of myself?" Maya laughed bitterly. "You don't care about my well-being. You never have. You care about money." "How dare you? She's right." Everyone turned. Elliot had pushed himself off the wall, his face pale, his eyes fixed on his mother. "What did you say?" Victoria's voice was dangerous. "I said she's right." Elliot swallowed hard. "I've heard you talk about it, Mother, when you think no one's listening, about how much the coastal property is worth, about the developers who want to buy it. You've been planning this since Richard died." "Elliot, be quiet." "No." Elliot looked at Maya, and for the first time she saw something other than arrogance in his face. Guilt. Shame. "I'm sorry, Maya. I knew what she was doing and I didn't say anything. I thought I don't know what I thought, that it was none of my business, that you'd figure it out." "Elliot, I'm warning you. You'll do what?" Elliot's voice cracked. "Disinherit me, cut me off. I'm already nothing to you except a prop for your social climbing." He turned to the administrator. "Whatever petition she's filed, I want it on record that I oppose it. My stepsister is one of the most capable people I've ever met. The fact that she uses a wheelchair doesn't change that." Victoria's face went white with rage. "You ungrateful—" "That's enough!" Marcus's voice cut through the room like a blade. He stepped forward, positioning himself between Victoria and Maya, his injured arm forgotten. "I've heard enough accusations," Marcus said. "Now it's my turn." "You have no standing here," Victoria spat. "You're nobody. I'm Lieutenant Marcus Cole, United States Navy SEAL." Marcus's voice dropped to a register that made even the administrator shrink back. "I've spent 12 years serving this country. I've lost friends, I've taken lives, and I've seen horrors that would break most people. And in all that time, I've never met anyone as strong as Maya Hartwell." "How touching. I'm not finished." Marcus took another step forward, and Victoria actually retreated. "I've watched this woman rebuild her life from nothing. I've seen her fight for her independence every single day. I've watched her crawl across a cellar floor to check on her dog when the ceiling was coming down around her." His voice cracked, but he kept going. "She doesn't need to be locked away. She needs to be left alone to live her life. And if you think I'm going to let you destroy everything she's worked for, you're wrong." "You can't stop a competency hearing," Victoria said, but her voice had lost its edge. "Maybe not, but I can testify at one. I can bring character witnesses, my commanding officer, the rescue workers who found us, the museum staff who watched her accept a national award 2 days ago. I can make sure every newspaper in Maine knows about the wealthy stepmother trying to lock up a disabled war hero's daughter for profit." Victoria's face went gray. "You wouldn't." "Try me." The silence stretched. Victoria looked at her son, who wouldn't meet her eyes. She looked at the administrator, who was carefully studying his shoes. She looked at Maya, sitting straight-backed in her wheelchair, Scout at her side. "This isn't over," Victoria said finally. "Yes, it is. Maya rolled forward until she was face to face with her stepmother. "I'm withdrawing from the trust." Victoria's eyes widened. "What? The property, the investments, all of it. You can have it. I don't want anything that ties me to you." "Maya, you can't." "I can. I checked the documents. If I voluntarily relinquish my claim, the trust dissolves and you get everything. That's what you wanted, isn't it?" Victoria opened her mouth, then closed it. For the first time, she seemed genuinely speechless. "I don't need your money," Maya continued. "I don't need the lighthouse. I don't need anything from you except to be left alone. So take it. Take all of it. And then get out of my life." "The lighthouse is destroyed anyway," Victoria said weakly. "It's worthless." "It's not worthless to me, but I'd rather lose it than spend another minute fighting you." Maya turned her chair toward the door. "We're done here." Marcus fell into step beside her, his hand finding hers. Scout trotted ahead, tail held high. "Maya, wait." She didn't stop. She didn't look back. She wheeled herself out of the office, out of the hospital, and into the cold morning air, leaving Victoria Hartwell and everything she represented behind. They made it to the parking lot before Maya's strength gave out. "I can't." Her voice broke. Her hands were shaking too hard to grip the wheels. Marcus was there in an instant, kneeling beside her, pulling her into his arms. "You did it," he murmured against her hair. "You beat her. I gave up everything. You gave up things, property, money. That's not everything." He pulled back to look at her face. "You kept your freedom. You kept your dignity. You kept Scout." Scout pressed against her legs, whining softly. "You kept me," Marcus added. Maya laughed through her tears. "I kept you. You're the one who stayed." "Same thing." He wiped her cheeks with his thumb. "Maya, I know I don't have much to offer. I'm a soldier with a torn shoulder and more nightmares than savings. But if you'll have me, yes." Marcus blinked. "I didn't finish." "You don't need to." Maya grabbed the front of his hospital gown and pulled him close. "Yes. To whatever you were going to say. Yes." She kissed him then right there in the hospital parking lot with Scout barking approval and nurses watching from the windows. It wasn't graceful. It wasn't romantic. It was desperate and messy and real. When they finally broke apart, Marcus was grinning a full, genuine smile that transformed his face. "So what now?" Maya asked. "Now we figure out where to live. The lighthouse is gone." "I don't care about the lighthouse." "You don't?" Maya shook her head. "I moved there because I wanted to prove I could survive alone. But I don't want to be alone anymore. I want," she hesitated, "I want whatever this is. With you." Marcus's expression softened. "Then that's what you'll have. Even without a home?" "We'll find a home. Together." A voice cut through the moment. "Maya." She turned. Elliot was hurrying across the parking lot, his expensive shoes slapping against the wet pavement. "What do you want?" Marcus stepped forward, his stance shifting to protective. "I want to help." Elliot stopped a few feet away, breathing hard. "I know I don't deserve to. I know I've been a terrible brother, half-brother, whatever, but I meant what I said in there." "Why should I believe you?" Maya asked. "You shouldn't. I've given you no reason to." Elliot ran a hand through his perfectly styled hair, destroying it. "But I have access to the family accounts. I know about the other properties. I can help you fight the trust dissolution, make sure you get what's actually yours." "I told Victoria she could have everything." "Everything in the trust, yes. But there are other assets. Things my mother doesn't know about." Elliot's voice dropped. "Your father had a lawyer in Portland, someone he trusted more than the family attorneys. He left instructions." "What kind of instructions?" I don't know exactly, but I know the lawyer's name, and I know your father wanted you protected. Elliot swallowed. He loved you, Maya. More than he ever loved any of us. More than he loved my mother, that's for certain. And he knew she would try something like this. Maya stared at her half-brother. She had never liked Elliot. He was everything she despised about her father's second family, shallow, privileged, self-absorbed. But the man standing in front of her now looked different. Broken open somehow. Real. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. "Because I'm tired." Elliot's voice cracked. "I'm tired of being my mother's puppet. I'm tired of pretending everything is fine when it's not. I'm tired of being the person everyone expects me to be." He looked at Marcus, then back at Maya. "I saw what you have. With him. That's real. That's something worth fighting for. I've never had anything like that. So you're helping me out of jealousy." "I'm helping you because it's the right thing to do. And because maybe if I do something right for once, I can start being someone different." Elliot reached into his pocket and pulled out a business card. "Arthur Henderson, estate attorney in Portland. He's expecting your call." Maya took the card slowly. "I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything." Elliot stepped back. "I've taken up enough of your time. I'm sorry, Maya. For everything." He turned and walked away, his shoulders hunched against the cold. Maya looked down at the card in her hand. Arthur Henderson. A name she didn't recognize, connected to a father she had lost too soon. "Do you trust him?" Marcus asked. "No." Maya tucked the card into her pocket. "But I trust my father. And if he set something up to protect me, I want to know what it is." "Then we'll find out. Together." "You keep saying that." "Because I keep meaning it." Marcus helped her back into her chair, then positioned himself behind the handles. "Where to?" Maya thought about it. The lighthouse was gone. Victoria had been defeated, at least for now. Elliot had surprised her, and she was sitting in a hospital parking lot with a torn-up soldier and a loyal dog with no home and no plan. For the first time in 3 years, she felt free. "Anywhere," she said. "As long as it's with you." Marcus leaned down and kissed the top of her head. "Copy that," he said. They left the hospital together, Scout trotting beside them, heading toward an uncertain future that somehow felt brighter than any certain past. Behind them, in the administrator's office, Victoria Hartwell was learning that her petition had been denied insufficient evidence, combined with multiple witnesses willing to testify on Maya's behalf. She screamed so loudly that the nurses came running. But Maya didn't hear it. She was already gone, rolling toward tomorrow with a soldier's hand on her shoulder and a dog's nose pressed against her palm. Whatever came next, she was ready. Arthur Henderson's office was on the 3rd floor of an old brick building in downtown Portland. Maya had expected something sleek and corporate, like Victoria's army of lawyers. Instead, she found worn leather chairs, walls lined with dusty law books, and a man who looked like someone's grandfather. "Miss Hartwell." Henderson rose slowly, his movements careful with age. "I've been waiting for this call for 3 years." Maya wheeled herself closer, Scout at her side, Marcus a steady presence behind her. "You knew my father." "I knew him well. We were roommates at Yale class of 72. Henderson smiled, a soft expression that creased his weathered face. "He was the best man at my wedding. I was supposed to be the best man at his, but well, Victoria had other ideas." "I don't understand. Why didn't you contact me after he died?" "Because Richard's instructions were very specific." Henderson pulled a thick envelope from his desk drawer. "I was only to reach out if you came to me first. He said..." The old man's voice wavered. "He said if you found your way here, it meant you were ready." Ready for what? Henderson handed her the envelope. See for yourself. Maya's hands trembled as she opened it. Inside was a letter in her father's handwriting, the same flowing script she remembered from birthday cards and notes left on her pillow when she was a child. Read it out loud, Marcus said softly. If you want to. Maya swallowed hard and began. My darling Maya, if you're reading this, then I'm gone, and Victoria has shown her true colors. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you from her in life. I hope I can protect you from the grave. Her voice cracked. She forced herself to continue. I knew from the beginning what Victoria wanted. I married her anyway because I was lonely and foolish and desperate for companionship after your mother died. By the time I understood my mistake, it was too late. She had wrapped herself around my finances like a vine, and I couldn't cut her out without destroying everything. But I could hide things. Small accounts she never knew about, properties she never discovered, a safety net built piece by piece over 15 years, all for you. Maya looked up at Henderson. What properties? The lawyer smiled. Keep reading. Arthur has the details. There's a cottage in Vermont, your mother's family home. I never told Victoria about it because I knew she would sell it. There's also a savings account in your name at a bank in Boston. Not a fortune, but enough to rebuild. I'm sorry I couldn't give you more, Maya. I'm sorry I couldn't be the father you deserved. But I want you to know that I watched you skate at the Olympics, and I cried like a baby. I watched you fight back from the accident, and I have never been more proud of anyone in my life. Maya's tears were falling freely now, blurring the words on the page. You are the best thing I ever did. The only thing that mattered. Whatever happens, wherever you go, know that your father loved you with his whole heart. Be brave, my girl. Be stubborn. Be everything Victoria tried to take from you. And when you find someone who sees the real Maya, the fighter, the artist, the miracle, hold on to them. All my love now and forever. Dad. The letter ended. Maya sat in silence, clutching the paper to her chest, unable to speak. Marcus's hand found her shoulder. Scout pressed against her legs. He knew, she whispered. He knew Victoria would try to destroy me, and he planned for it. Richard Hartwell was a complicated man, Henderson said gently. He made mistakes, but his love for you was never in question. The cottage in Vermont is paid off and in your name. It's small, but it's sturdy. Beautiful land views of the mountains. Your mother painted there every summer. Henderson pushed a folder across the desk. The deed, the bank account information, everything you need. It's all yours, Maya. No strings, no Victoria. Maya opened the folder. The numbers in the bank statement made her gasp. This is enough to rebuild, enough to start over. Henderson leaned back in his chair. Your father wanted you to have options. He wanted you to be free. Maya looked at Marcus, her eyes bright with tears and something else. Hope. A cottage in Vermont, she said. Sounds quiet, Marcus replied. Sounds perfect. They drove north that afternoon. The cottage was exactly what Henderson had described, small, sturdy, nestled in a valley with views of green mountains rolling toward the horizon. It had been empty for 20 years, but somehow it still felt alive, as if the walls remembered the woman who had painted here every summer. Maya's mother. It needs work, Marcus said, walking through the rooms while Maya wheeled along behind him. The porch is rotting. The plumbing probably needs replacing. The roof. It's perfect, Maya interrupted. Marcus turned to look at her. You haven't even seen the upstairs. I don't need to see the upstairs, I can feel it. She pressed her hand against the wall, rough with age and memory. My mother was here. She created here. I can start over here. Scout was already exploring his nose, pressed to every corner, his tail wagging with approval. "What about you?" Maya asked. "Your assignment at Brunswick. I talked to Captain Morrison this morning." Maya's heart stuttered. "And I requested a transfer. Permanent change of station to the recruiting office in Burlington." Marcus knelt beside her chair, taking her hands in his. "No more deployments. No more combat rotations. I'm going to train the next generation of SEALs, teach them everything I know." "You'd give up field work for this. For you." Marcus's voice was firm. "I spent 12 years running toward danger because I didn't have anything worth staying home for. Now I do." Maya pulled him close, pressing her forehead against his. "I love you," she said. "I love you so much it scares me." "Good." He smiled against her lips. "Being scared together is better than being brave alone." They kissed in the dusty cottage where Maya's mother had painted sunsets, and for the first time in years, the future felt like something to run toward instead of away from. The months that followed were the hardest work of Maya's life. They rebuilt the cottage from the foundation up. Marcus handled the structural work, replacing beams, fixing the roof, installing a wheelchair ramp that Maya insisted on designing herself. Maya tackled the interior, painting walls in colors that reminded her of the Maine coast, hanging her mother's old canvases beside her own new work. Scout learned to be a true service dog. Marcus trained him every morning, teaching him to retrieve dropped objects, to alert for falls, to provide stability when Maya transferred between her chair and the bed. The puppy, who had once been declared untrainable, became a professional, focused, disciplined, utterly devoted. "He's ready," Marcus announced one morning, fastening an official service dog vest around Scout's chest. "Certified and everything." Maya looked at her dog, her partner, her protector, the animal who had started everything by grabbing a soldier's sleeve and refusing to let go. "You did this," she said. "We did this. All three of us." Elliot visited in June. He arrived unannounced, driving a modest rental car instead of his usual flashy sports vehicle. He looked different, thinner somehow, and less polished, like someone who had been through a fire. "I left," he said without preamble. "I left everything. The company, the family money, all of it." Maya stared at him from the porch. "What happened? Mother cut me off after the hospital. She said I was disloyal, a traitor." Elliot laughed bitterly. "Turns out she was right. I am disloyal to everything she stands for." "So what now?" "I don't know." He shoved his hands in his pockets, looking younger than his 30 years. "I got a job. Nothing fancy, assistant manager at a hotel in Connecticut. It's not much, but it's mine. I earned it." Marcus appeared in the doorway, his body tense with protective instinct. "It's okay," Maya said. "He's family." "Since when?" "Since he chose to be." Elliot stayed for dinner. He helped Marcus with the dishes while Maya sketched at the kitchen table, Scout dozing at her feet. The conversation was awkward at first, stilted with years of distance and mistrust. But by the end of the evening, something had shifted. "I'm glad you found this," Elliot said as he prepared to leave. "The cottage, Marcus, all of it. You deserve it, Maya." "So do you," she replied. "Deserve happiness, I mean. Maybe someday." He smiled, a real smile this time. "Take care of yourself, little sister." He drove away into the summer twilight, and Maya realized she had forgiven him. Not because he deserved it, but because carrying the weight of old grudges was heavier than letting them go. The proposal came on an ordinary Tuesday in October. Maya was in her new studio, a converted garage that Marcus had renovated with adjustable easels, perfect lighting, and floors heated enough for Scout to nap comfortably. She was working on illustrations for a new book, a story about a dog who saved a soldier's life. "Hey," Marcus said from the doorway. "Can you take a break?" In a minute. I'm almost home now." Something in his voice made her stop. She set down her brush and turned. Marcus was standing there in his old navy dress whites, the same uniform he had worn to the Portland Gala, now pressed and perfect, his medals gleaming. Scout sat beside him, unusually still, a small velvet box tied to his collar. Maya's breath caught. "Marcus, let me say this." He walked toward her, his steps measured his eyes, never leaving hers. "I've written speeches in my head 100 times, but none of them are right. So I'm just going to tell you the truth." He knelt beside her chair, and Scout stepped forward, presenting the box on his collar. "I spent 34 years not knowing what home meant. I had barracks tents, forward operating bases. I had temporary places to sleep between missions. I had nowhere that belonged to me, and no one I belonged to." His voice cracked, but he kept going. "Then a dog grabbed my sleeve on a freezing morning in Maine, and he dragged me to a woman who was drowning. And I jumped in without thinking, because that's what I do. I didn't know that saving you would end up saving me." Maya's tears were flowing freely now. "You make me want to build things instead of destroy them. You make me want to stay in one place. You make me want to be the kind of man who deserves you." He opened the box, revealing a simple gold band with a modest diamond. "I don't have much money. I don't have a fancy pedigree. All I have is a scarred body, a battered heart, and a dog who loves you almost as much as I do." He took her hand, his fingers trembling. "Maya Hartwell, will you marry me?" She didn't hesitate. "Yes," she said. "Yes, yes, yes." Marcus slid the ring onto her finger, and Scout barked once, sharp and triumphant, as if he had planned the whole thing himself. Then Marcus was kissing her, his hands in her hair, and Maya was laughing and crying at the same time, and everything she had lost seemed small compared to everything she had found. They got married in December, on the 1-year anniversary of the night Marcus first carried her out of the Atlantic Ocean. The ceremony was small, just a few friends from the base. Henderson and his wife Elliot, and his new girlfriend, and the rescue workers who had pulled them from the cellar after the storm. No Victoria, no pretense, no drama. Maya wore a simple white dress that looked stunning from her wheelchair. Marcus wore his dress whites again, the uniform that had become her favorite sight in the world. Scout sat between them, as ring-bearer the velvet box still tied to his collar. The minister, a retired Navy chaplain Marcus had served with years ago, kept the ceremony short. "Do you, Marcus James Cole, take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife?" "I do." "And do you, Maya Elizabeth Hartwell, take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband?" "I do." "Then by the power vested in me, I pronounce you husband and wife." The chaplain smiled. "You may kiss your bride." Marcus bent down, cupped her face in his hands, and kissed her like she was the only person in the world. The reception was held in the cottage, which they had decorated with simple white lights and evergreen branches. There was no formal dancing, just music playing softly, while people mingled and laughed and celebrated 2 survivors who had somehow found each other. But at the end of the evening, when most of the guests had gone, and the fire was burning low, Marcus extended his hand. "Dance with me," he said. "We already had our dance, at the gala." "That was different. That was for them." He pulled her chair toward the center of the room. "This is for us." He put on a song, something slow and sweet that Maya recognized from her mother's old records. Then he positioned himself in front of her, took both her hands, and began to move. It was just like Portland. He guided the chair in sweeping arcs, dipping and spinning, making her feel weightless. But this time there was no audience, no judges, no statement to make. Just two people who loved each other moving together in the firelight. "I have something for you," Maya said when the song ended. She wheeled herself to the closet and retrieved a large wrapped package. Marcus opened it carefully. Inside was a painting, the second one she had ever done of him. This one showed a man in military dress whites, kneeling beside a wheelchair, a dog at his side. The scene was their proposal captured in Maya's distinctive style. "The title," she said softly, "is Coming Home." Marcus stared at the painting for a long time. When he finally looked up, his eyes were wet. "I don't deserve you," he said. "You deserve everything." She pulled him down for a kiss. "And now you're stuck with me." "Best trap I ever walked into." Scout barked in agreement, and the three of them, soldier artist and the dog who had brought them together, settled in front of the fire as snow began to fall outside. Spring came early that year. Maya's new book, The Dog Who Called the Soldiers, was published to immediate acclaim. Critics praised its emotional depth, its beautiful illustrations, and its powerful message about unlikely heroes. Sales exceeded expectations. Letters poured in from veterans, from people with disabilities, from anyone who had ever felt alone, and then found they weren't. Marcus received a commendation from the Navy for his service during the storm rescue. He was offered a promotion to commander, which would have meant moving to Washington. He turned it down, without hesitation. "I'm done chasing ranks," he told Maya. "I have everything I need right here." Victoria never contacted them again. The last they heard, she had moved to Europe, her social standing in ruins, after Elliot publicly exposed her scheme to institutionalize Maya for profit. The Hartwell name, once synonymous with old money and respectability, now carried a different weight. Mrs. Brennan sent a card. Maya threw it away without reading it. The lighthouse at Beacon Point was eventually demolished. Maya watched the news coverage one morning, Scout's head in her lap, and felt nothing. The building had been important once. It wasn't anymore. "Do you miss it?" Marcus asked. "I miss who I was learning to be there. But I like who I've become here better." On their first wedding anniversary, Maya gave Marcus the news. "I talked to the adoption agency today." Marcus froze halfway through making dinner. "And they approved our application. We're on the waiting list for a child with special needs. They said..." Maya's voice caught. "They said our home would be perfect, that our experience, our story would make us ideal parents." Marcus set down the spatula. He crossed the kitchen in 3 strides and pulled her into his arms. "Are you sure?" he asked, his voice rough. "Being a parent it's everything. It changes everything." "I know." Maya held him tighter. "I want everything to change. I want to teach some kid what we've learned, that broken doesn't mean worthless, that wheels don't define you, that the people who love you will always find a way to carry you when you can't carry yourself. You want to pass it on. I want to prove it's real, that what we have, what we've built, it's not just for us, it's bigger than us." Marcus pulled back to look at her face. His eyes were bright, his expression fierce with love. "Then we'll do it," he said. "Together. Always together." They stood there in the kitchen of their Vermont cottage, holding each other, while Scout watched from his bed by the fire. Outside, the mountains were turning green with spring, and somewhere in the world a child was waiting to be found. Just like Maya had been waiting on that frozen dock. Just like Marcus had been waiting in his nightmares. Just like Scout had been waiting in that shelter, untrainable and unwanted, until the right person came along and saw what he could become. Some rescues take seconds, others take years, and some rescues never really end. They just keep rippling outward, touching lives that haven't been lived yet, saving people who haven't been born. Maya understood that now. She understood that the dog who had found her in the fog hadn't just saved her body from the ocean. He had saved her soul from drowning in loneliness. He had led her to a man who needed saving just as much as she did. And together the three of them had built something that would outlast all of them. A home, a family, a love that saw past wheels and scars and nightmares to the people underneath. That was the real rescue. That was the miracle. And it had started with a puppy who refused to let go. If this story touched your heart, please share it with someone who needs to know they're not alone. Subscribe to our channel for more stories about hope, healing, and the miracles that happen when we open our hearts to love. May God watch over you and your family through every storm you face. May He send you the right people to walk beside you when the road gets rough. And may He bless you with a love that sees you, values you, and never gives up on you. If you believe in second chances and the power of unconditional love, please type AMN in the comments. Because sometimes the person who saves you shows up wearing fur, and sometimes home isn't a place on a map. It's a choice to stay, to build, and to love, no matter what breaks along the way. Thank you for watching.